The blue birthday balloons had stopped bouncing hours ago. They hung limp against the cracked vinyl booth of Joe's Diner, deflating slowly like Aisha Washington's hopes. The vanilla cake her waitress had brought out, but with tip money because nobody else had ordered one, was melting under the fluorescent lights. Little rivers of frosting pulled around the base, making the number 10 candle tilt sideways. Aisha adjusted her paper crown for the 100th time. It kept slipping down her forehead, too big for her smart Ned. She'd made it herself that morning at school, decorating it with silver stars and her name in careful block letters. Aisha's birthday, it said, as if anyone needed reminding. Sweetheart, it's almost 7. The waitress, Sheila, slid into the booth across from her. Her eyes were kind but tired. The same look Aisha had seen on every adult who'd ever felt sorry for her. Maybe we should call someone. They're coming. Aisha's voice was small but certain. She clutched the gift card in her hands, the edges soft from hours of nervous rubbing. $30 to the bookstore downtown. She'd saved it for 4 months doing chores. Guardian said she'd be here at 4. Foster dad said 5:30. They're just running late. Sheila opened her mouth, then closed it. They both knew what running late meant when it came to Miss Lopez and Mr. Evans. Miss Lopez was probably at her sister's place, the one she said was more important than some kid's party. Mr. Evans was likely still at the warehouse, or the bar, or anywhere that let him forget he had foster daughter waiting. Tell you what, Sheila said, squeezing Aisha's hand. How about I wrap up that cake? You can take it home. Eat it whenever. A deep rumble cut her off. It started low, like distant thunder, then grew into a roar that rattled the diner's windows. Aisha's head snapped toward the parking lot. Through the glass, she watched as motorcycle after motorcycle rolled in, their chrome gleaming in the late afternoon sun. Big bikes, loud bikes, the kind that made the pavement vibrate and scare the pigeons off the power lines. 1, 2, 5, 8 of them in total. The riders killed their engines one by one, and suddenly the diner was too quiet. Aisha could hear her own heartbeat. She'd seen bikers before. Everyone in Riverton had. The Steelhawks Motorcycle Club wasn't exactly welcome at church picnics. They looked like the men from her nightmares, all leather and tattoos and hard faces that never smiled. But today, Aisha wasn't scared. Today, she was desperate. What are you doing? Sheila hissed as Aisha slid out of the booth. I am making a wish, Aisha whispered back. She pushed through the glass door before Sheila could stop her. The bell chimed cheerfully, absurdly out of place. Outside, the air smelled like gasoline and summer heat. The bikers were pulling off their helmets, stretching their legs, not paying attention to the small black girl with a crooked paper crown approaching them. The biggest one noticed her first. He was a mountain of a man, broad-shouldered with a graying beard that reached his chest. His leather vest was covered in patches and pins Aisha couldn't read, and his arms were painted with ink, skulls and flames and things that probably meant he was dangerous. His eyes were dark, almost black, and when they landed on Aisha, they widened slightly. Kid, you lost? His voice was rough like gravel. Aisha's courage wavered. Up close, these men were even more frightening. Their boots were steel-toed, their faces were scarred. One man had a tattoo of a hawk's head on his neck that seemed to snarl at her. But then she remembered the empty booth, the melted cake, the gift card she'd saved for months that she'd have to spend alone. Could you be my family for today? The words tumbled out before she could stop them. 8 bikers stared at her like she'd just asked them to fly to the moon. Someone laughed nervously, another muttered something under his breath. The big man, the one who'd spoken first, crouched down until he was eye level with Aisha. Say that again, princess? Aisha's chin trembled, but she didn't cry. She'd promised herself she wouldn't cry today. It's my birthday. I'm 10. My guardians were supposed to come, but they didn't. And I've been waiting all day, and I just don't want to be alone anymore. The parking lot was silent, except for the distant hum of traffic on Route 12. Sheila was watching through the diner window, her hand on the phone like she might call the police. A couple at a nearby gas station had stopped pumping to stare. The big biker studied Aisha's face. His expression was unreadable, carved from stone. Then slowly something shifted. His jaw unclenched, his eyes softened just a fraction. What's your name?
Aisha. Aisha Washington. Well, Aisha Washington, I'm Wolf. He stood up, towering over her again, and glanced back at his crew. They looked as confused as he probably felt. You know what? I think we can do that. Aisha's heart jumped. Really? Really? Wolf turned to a skinny biker with red hair. Dusty, get the sidecar ready. We're taking the birthday girl for a ride. Are you insane? Another biker sputtered. This one younger, with a shaved head. Wolf, we can't just... I said, get it ready. Wolf's voice wasn't loud, but it carried weight. The kind that made grown men obey without question. Within minutes, they'd attached the small sidecar to one of the bikes and found the spare helmet. Too big, but they stuffed napkins inside to make it fit. Aisha stood in the middle of the parking lot, paper crown still crooked on her head, watching these scary-looking men fuss over her safety like worried uncles. You sure about this? Sheila called from the doorway, anxious. Wolf looked at her, then at Aisha, and then nodded slowly. Yeah, I am. He lifted Aisha into the sidecar like she weighed nothing. The leather seat was warm from the sun. The world looked different from down here. Bigger, more exciting. Wolf straddled his bike and the engine roared to life, powerful and alive beneath them. You ready, princess? Aisha gripped the sides of the sidecar, and for the first time all day, she smiled a real smile, the kind that started in her chest and spread to her face. Ready! The Steelhawks pulled out of the parking lot in formation. 8 motorcycles and one little black girl in a paper crown. Inside the diner, Sheila grabbed her phone, not to call the police, but to take a picture. Something told her this was a moment worth remembering. As they disappeared down the highway, the sun beginning its descent, nobody in Riverton knew they'd just witnessed the beginning of something bigger than a birthday wish. Nobody knew this was the day everything would change. The wind tasted like freedom. Aisha had never felt anything like it. The way the air rushed past her face, cool and alive, making her paper crown flutter wildly. The world blurred into streaks of green and gold as they roared down Pine Ridge Road, leaving Riverton behind. Above them, the sky was turning pink and orange, the sun melting into the horizon like her forgotten birthday cake. You good back there? Wolf shouted over the engine's rumble. This is amazing! Aisha's voice was pure joy, high and bright. She threw her hands up and Wolf quickly reached back to steady her. Hands inside, princess. Safety first. Behind them, the other Steelhawks followed in a V formation. Dusty had pulled out his phone, recording everything. This is going to break the internet, he muttered as he captured Aisha's delighted squeals. They rode past Thompson's farm, where the cornfield stretched endlessly toward the horizon. The stalks were in full bloom, thousands of green faces turning toward the dying light. Aisha gasped, pointing. Look, they're all watching us! Wolf felt something crack inside his chest, something that had been frozen for a very long time. They curved along the Cedar River, where the water sparkled like scattered diamonds. A family having a picnic stopped mid-bite to stare. A man washing his truck dropped his hose. Mrs. Jenkins from the church bake sale actually clutched her pearls, her mouth falling open as the Steelhawks passed with a little black girl waving from the sidecar like a princess in a parade. Is that Aisha Washington? Are those bikers kidnapping her? No, look, she's laughing.
The whispers would start tonight and spread like wildfire by morning. But right now, none of that mattered. Right now, there was only the road, the sunset, and a little girl who'd stopped feeling alone. After 20 minutes, Wolf signaled to pull over at a clearing near Willow Grove Park. The bikes rolled to a stop, engines ticking as they cooled. Aisha's legs were wobbly when Wolf lifted her out, but her smile was electric. That was the best thing ever. Can we do it again? Maybe later, kiddo. Wolf picked up her crown and gently placed it back on her head. You hungry? As if on cue, Aisha's stomach growled. She nodded shyly. The Steelhawks had parked near Mario's taco truck, a beaten-up food stand that served the best street tacos for 3 miles. The owner, Mario himself, eyed the group nervously until Wolf held up his hands in peace. Just feeding a birthday girl, Wolf said. That okay? Mario relaxed and smiled. Birthday? First tacos on the house. They pulled their change, crumpled bills and quarters from jacket pockets, and bought Aisha 2 tacos, a bag of chips, and the biggest ice cream cone Mario could make. Aisha sat on a picnic bench, swinging her legs as she devoured everything like she hadn't eaten in days.
Maybe she hadn't. Wolf sat beside her, watching quietly. The other bikers kept their distance, giving them space, but staying close enough to hear. Your folks, Wolf said carefully. They forget a lot. Aisha licked vanilla ice cream from her fingers. Guardian forgets birthday sometimes and school stuff and dinner. She said it matter-of-factly, like she was describing the weather. Foster dad's better, but he works a lot. They got assigned last year, and now they're both too busy to remember me. That's not right, Wolf said, his voice rough. It's okay. Aisha looked at him with eyes too old for 10 years. Today feels better anyway. Better than waiting. Wolf's jaw tightened. He looked away, staring at the darkening sky. The memory hit him without warning, sharp and unwelcome. He was 9 years old again, sitting in a concrete room at St. Luke's Children's Home. The social worker had brought a store-bought cupcake with a single candle. Happy birthday, Tom, she'd said, her smile professional and empty. Around him, 15 other kids stared with hollow eyes. Nobody sang, nobody clapped. The cupcake tasted like cardboard and loneliness. That night, little Tom Riley had made himself a promise. Never care about birthdays, never care about anyone, never let it hurt again. And he'd kept that promise for 40 years. Wolf blinked, pulling himself back to the present. Aisha was watching him with concern, ice cream melting down her hand. You okay, Mr. Wolf? He cleared his throat. Yeah, Princess, just remembering something. Something sad. Something old. Aisha thought about this, then held out her ice cream cone. Want some? Ice cream makes sad stuff hurt less. Wolf stared at the offered cone, sticky and melting and given with such pure, uncomplicated kindness that it almost broke him. He took a small bite, and Aisha beamed. See? Better. The Steelhawks pretended not to watch. Dusty wiped his eyes with his sleeve. Even Brick, 6'5" of pure muscle and bad attitude, looked away, his throat working. Hey, Aisha, Dusty called out, trying to lighten the mood. How about we get a proper photo, you and your family, for the day? They gathered around the picnic table. These rough men with their leather and scars, and Aisha and her paper crown stood in the center. Mario snapped the picture on Dusty's phone. Later, when that photo went viral, people would say it was impossible to tell who looked happier, the bikers or the little black girl. As the sun finally set and the stars began appearing, Wolf knew they couldn't keep riding forever. They'd have to take her back eventually, back to whatever home that let her slip away, back to guardians who forgot birthdays. But not yet. One more ride? Aisha asked hopefully. Wolf looked at his crew. They all nodded. One more ride, he agreed. But then we need to talk about where you really live, Princess. Something flickered across Aisha's face. Fear maybe, or guilt, but it was gone so fast Wolf almost missed it. Okay, she whispered. They climbed back onto the bikes, engines roaring to life. As they pulled onto the dark road, none of them knew the truth yet. None of them knew Aisha hadn't just wandered from a forgetful family. She'd run. And that one simple, desperate birthday wish was about to change everything, not just for her, but for a whole town and for a biker named Wolf who had spent his life promising himself he'd never care again.